But we do appreciate everyone coming out. My name is Mark Holland, Mayor here in Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County, and really appreciate the participation. This is our 5th of 8 in our listening tour. So we've done 4 already, and we have another one in October, another in November, and the last one will be in December. We're going in order of district number, and so this is number 5 for 5th District. The participation has been terrific, and this one is no different. We've averaged over 100 people of citizens each time, in addition to all the facilitators that we have. So there's been a great interest, there's been great feedback, and we'll talk about how the process is going to go tonight. But what we're going to do is I'm going to share a little bit to kind of frame the evening and what the opportunity means with the new payoff of the Star Bonds. And then we're going to have an opportunity to break down into groups, and that's really where the feedback is going to happen. My experience is in large groups, if you just have a single microphone, all of the extroverts stand up and talk, and all the quiet people wish they would stop talking or say something meaningful. Amen? So what we're going to do is, by breaking up into small groups with the facilitators, it'll give everyone an opportunity, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, to give your input. And every comment that you make tonight is going to be documented and is going to be available online for the whole community. We take out the names, but we want all the input from all the folks who come to every one of these, for your input to be out for people to see and for your feedback to be heard. So we appreciate your coming out tonight, and we know it's always a deal to give up an evening, and we appreciate your giving it up tonight with your neighbors and fellow citizens to do this work. So I want to start off by giving some thank yous. I want to thank all of our volunteer facilitators. The facilitators at each of these stations, there's more than 20. I think we should give them a round of applause and just say thank you for your work. Most of them are doing all 8 sessions, so they're veteran facilitators, but they have volunteered as a part of this, and it's been a great commitment on their part. I also want to give a thank you to my staff, without whom we could not do this. This has taken an enormous amount of logistical work and preparation and coordination, but I want to thank Maureen Mahoney, Rachel Boteo, Jason Banks, Bill Hurlbrink, Lindsay Begum, and Jasmine Holmes. Let's give them all a big hand for pulling this together. I also want to thank Piper High School for making the space available. We found that doing these in the schools is the most effective way because there's the most space. The gymnasiums actually work out well for breakout space, so District 500 has been terrific, and we're going to Bonner Springs High School, to Turner, and all the schools have been very cooperative in this effort, so I really appreciate the Piper School District doing the same. What I want to do next is offer each of the commissioners. There are 3 commissioners here tonight. You have 2 at-large commissioners and your in-district commissioner. I'm going to give each of them an opportunity to come up and say a few words of greeting. So I'm going to first invite Commissioner Mike King, Commissioner of the 5th District.
Well, I'm glad you're here tonight. I didn't figure there'd be a small turnout. In fact, I thought it'd be a turnout just like this. This gives us a chance to let the mayor and us commissioners know what you folks want. And it's going to help us make decisions that go not just this year and next year, but for years to come. So please be involved. And like the mayor said, talk, listen, and learn. Thank you all for being here.
Next, I'd like to introduce the Commissioner at-large District 1, which is the northern half of the city, Commissioner Melissa Bynum.
Good evening, and I want to thank you all so very much for coming out. I really appreciate seeing all of your faces here, ready to participate and interact with each other, with your facilitators, and with us. I'm also really happy to be here. I've been at every listening tour session so far, and I intend to go to all of them. This one happens to be the one for the district in which I live. I'm also happy that my sister and my mother-in-law and my mother also all live in this district. 2 of those 3 people are also here tonight. So my family's here to participate as well. We appreciate you spending some time with us. We look forward to the results of the report out session when you are done. Thank you so much.
I also want to introduce at-large District 2, which is the southern half of the community, but also your representative, Commissioner Hal Walker.
Well, I'm glad there's a good turnout. We've had great turnouts at the other locations. I actually think maybe the mayor ought to do this about once every year or every other year and hear what the people have to say, not only when we have money, but when we don't. What do you think of that? It's been a learning experience for me, and I've been surprised, and I have no doubt that the people of Piper, this district will surprise me as well with how you want us to spend this money, and believe me, it will be listened to. So give us your best shot tonight, and thank you very much.
All right, I saw a few of other elected officials in the room that I just want to recognize. Jerry Gorman is here, our district attorney. Mr. Gorman, thank you for being here. Also, Jeff Bryant, who is one of our Board of Public Utilities representatives, has been a facilitator. So, Jeff, we appreciate your being here as well. Commissioner Ann Murguia is here in the back. Commissioner Murguia, thank you for being here. All right, if I forgot someone will mention that to me and we'll do an introduction afterwards, but I appreciate everyone's commitment to being here. I want to give just a brief overview of what we're doing today. We have in Kansas City, Kansas, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with $12 million coming in from the payoff of the STAR bonds. The STAR bonds, as many of you may well know, get their name because they're sales tax revenue bonds. That's the STR of the STAR bonds. And they are bonds that were used to help develop Village West. And Village West, if you remember it, before Village West was there were 150 some homes, I think 153 homes. And there, for retail out there was a gas station, a liquor store, and a Kentucky Fried. Do you remember? With all the jobs and sales tax that went with that. If you fast forward to today, and that area paid about $200,000 a year in property taxes combined. If you fast forward to today, that area now represents 10% of the total valuation of the city of Kansas City, Kansas. That area has 9,000 jobs. It generates currently about $12 million in property taxes that are being paid every year. The only group that does not pay property tax in the Village West area is the NASCAR racetrack. That has a 30-year tax abatement. The rest all pay property taxes. The sales tax that you pay when you purchase something at the Legends, and I hope you do that frequently, but when you purchase something at the Legends, the sales tax that you pay, all of that, both the state and the local portion, go to pay off the STAR bonds. Now, that area generates about $650 million in annual sales, which is astonishingly successful in the region, one of the highest grossing sales areas in the entire metropolitan area, and one of the largest in the nation. It's been a success, really an unprecedented success. When these STAR bonds pay off, they're originally scheduled to pay off in 2021. They're going to pay off now in 2017, about 4 years early. That payoff is going to generate about $40 or $50 million a year for the state and about $12 million for the local government. $12 million is a lot of money, yes? Which is why we're all here. I want to put that in some perspective, however. $12 million is a lot of money, but it represents only about 4% of the total budget of the unified government. We have a $300 million combined unified government budget, city and county, and so $12 million is about 4%. So as we think about spending it, we need to think about what kind of impact we can make for that $12 million and what would be the best use of it. So our goal tonight is to find that balance. We could put the $12 million entirely towards property tax reduction and still not have our property taxes low enough. We could put all $12 million into infrastructure improvements and our infrastructure would still need work. We could put all $12 million into catching up on salaries for our employees that have fallen behind, and we still might be a little bit behind. So if you look at the ways that we could invest $12 million, we have a number of buckets that could use all of it, and we get this money. We need to find a balance of how we're going to do that. The good news is we get it every year. So every year we have $12 million. Next year we'll have that money again. I want you to think about spending the dollars once versus spending it multiple times. So let me give you an example. If we take some of that money and put it into fund balance accounts, which is not very fun. It's like putting it into the savings account. It's very hard to explain to your kids why you're putting money into a savings account when it's not a very fun way to spend money. But if we put money towards fund balances, it helps our credit rating. But whatever money we put into that fund balance, say we put $4 million into the fund balance, next year that $4 million is available to be spent again because it was a one-time expenditure. You see what I'm saying? If we took $4 million and put it against property tax reduction, we've committed that $4 million into the future. And so next year, we have $4 million less to think about because we've already committed it to property tax reduction. The same thing is true with salaries. If you put money into a cost of living increase, and you put $2 million towards the cost of living increase, next year that $2 million is spoken for because the employees are going to continue to make that money. So when we think about spending the money, I want you to think about money that you spend once and money that you can spend year after year after year. The last example, if you build a road, and to give you an idea, the State Avenue, doesn't State Avenue look great? Have you seen State Avenue? It looks tremendous. From 82nd Street to 94th Street, the last section of State Avenue that we just did, new curbs and sidewalks, new medians, they look like our whole city should look. That was about a $4 million project, just to give you some perspective. So that $4 million, if you pay that with cash, next year that $4 million could be spent again on another infrastructure project. If you debt finance a project, whatever money, it's just like your mortgage, whatever money you commit to debt financing, you've committed every year. So paying cash for infrastructure projects, you can do it again. Debt financing, you're committing it over time. So it's not dissimilar to our household budgets where we have to think about the same way, and we have to think about the same thing in terms of how we make purchases. The next thing I want to do is to talk a little bit about how we got to where we are, because people tell me all the time, or ask all the time, why are the taxes in Wyandotte County higher than everywhere else? And I can just tell you I've looked into it, and the taxes in Wyandotte County are higher than everywhere else. So I want to share a little bit about why that is, in terms of an explanation and not an excuse. Fair enough? So I'll give you an idea. In 1950, Kansas City, Kansas was the largest city in the state of Kansas. In 1960, we had 185,000 people in Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County. And I use Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County interchangeably because we're unified now. I ask forgiveness of Edwardsville and Bonner Springs, but I interchange them because of the unified government all the time. But Kansas City, Kansas had 185,000 people, and we were 20% above the median household income in the state. From 1960 to the year 2000, we experienced a phenomenon that was experienced in urban areas across America. And that's when 60,000 white people moved out of Kansas City, Kansas, and 30,000 people of other ethnicities moved in. And we had a net loss of 30,000 people. And with a net loss of 30,000 people, we went from 20% above the median household income to 20% below the median household income. And we're now the third largest city in the state, behind Wichita and, sadly, Overland Park. 30,000 fewer people in a city, I want you to picture that for a minute, is about 10,000 empty homes. 10,000 empty homes. 10,000 homes without a person in them begin to fall down. And it's economics 101, supply and demand. You have more supply than you can sell, property values plummeted, and over that 40-year period, the government gradually raised the property tax rate in order to capture some of the loss in the valuation of the properties. So property taxes crept up for 40 years as property values came down. Today, Wyandotte County, the average home in Wyandotte County sells for about $85,000 a year. In Johnson County, it's over $180,000 a year. So if you think about the difference in home value, you can see the dramatic difference. Also, Johnson County has 3 times as many homes as we have, valued at more than double the value. So you can see the economic difference in terms of how we struggle with our property tax rate. The other piece about 10,000 empty homes is many of them collapsed and have been torn down at taxpayer expense. We now own, the unified government now owns 6,000 empty lots in the city. And if you are willing to mow one, I will give it to you for a good price tonight. So let me know if you're interested in mowing an empty lot. But it gives you some perspective, doesn't it, in terms of how we got to where we are. The good news is, since 2010, Wyandotte County has had the first net gain in population in 50 years. We're growing again. The other piece that's beneficial is, as we're growing, we also have a lot to be proud of. We are now one of the most diverse cities in the entire nation. Only Broward County, Florida, where Miami is, has the same level of diversity as Wyandotte County, because we have all 3 major ethnic groups, more than 25% of the population. We're about 40% white, we're about 28% Latino, and we're about 26% African American. That we have one of the most diverse cities in the entire nation. In 1960, being a diverse city was a bad thing. In the year 2010 and 2015, it's something to celebrate. And it's the kind of city that people want to live in and that younger people are moving towards. The new urban environment that we have in Kansas City, Kansas is something that we can celebrate and be proud of. We have a growing city, the most diverse city in the region and in the nation, and we're growing and we're making improvements. That's a lot to be proud of. So it gives you some perspective about how we got to where we are, why taxes are so high. It took 40 years for them to get this high. I don't want to wait 40 years for them to go back down, do you? No. So we're going to talk today about how we can invest. I always like to use the term invest instead of spend. How we want to invest this $12 million that we have in order to make the most impact in our community. So, the last thing, well, I want to say one more thing. You know you're listening to a preacher when they say finally for the 3rd time. My 3 top priorities are economic development, innovation, and healthy communities. Economic development, obviously, to continue to create job growth. Wyandotte County had 30% of all new jobs created in the state of Kansas were created in Wyandotte County last year. Considering we have 5% of the state's population and we grew 30% of the new jobs, that's something to be proud of. We want to continue to push innovation, where I want to see cities be more efficient and more responsive to their citizens. There are cities right now that have an app on their smartphone where you can touch it. It's a 311 app. And if you have a pothole, unlikely though that sounds, if you had a pothole near your home, you could take a picture of it. The GPS on your phone will tell us where it is. You can send it to the city, and instead of sending it to a phone bank where people have to relay the information, it sends it directly to the people in the truck who are able to fill the hole. And it comes to their iPad, they can see where it is, it'll route them geographically based on the calls, and they can fill it, and when it's done, they can hit done, and you get a text message saying your pothole's been filled. That's a level of innovation that cities have already. That's not something new, cities have that right now. We need that level of technology and innovation to better serve our community. And that's something that we're working on right now and investing in. The last thing is healthy communities. We have a lot of challenges with health, and it's largely driven by socioeconomic conditions, but improving the health of our community is about creating the quality of life. And that's why healthy communities is an important focus for me and I think for our community. All right, so what are we going to do tonight? What we're going to do, we came here to listen to you, so I'm done talking. What we're going to ask you to do is on your name tag, you have a number. And we did that on purpose because people tend to walk around with the people they came in with. See? And we're going to split you up into 10 different groups. And we want you to go, it's numbered 1 all the way around, 5 and 6 are behind you, 7, 8, 9, 10. We want you to go to the small group, and you're going to be given a form that talks about different ways, different costs that the unified government has for different services. So you're going to see the value of a mill levy. You're going to see the value of how much it costs to cut grass, how much it costs to pave streets. You're going to get some very concrete numbers. And then you're going to be asked to prioritize where you would like to invest the $12 million. On the mill levy, and mill levy is very confusing, but a mill levy is how we rate our taxes. Our mill levy represents about $1 million. So if we put $1 million against, from sales tax to reduce your property tax by $1 million, that's about 1 mil for your home. A $100,000 home with a 1 mil reduction will save about $12 per year. So if we put $4 million in property tax relief, we would reduce your cost by about $48 per year. You see what I'm saying? If we put all $12 million towards property tax relief, we would take down about $150 a year per $100,000 valuation. So if you have a $200,000 house, it'd be $300 per year. So you can see how the mill levy works in terms of value. You can also see how much it costs for snow plowing and all kinds of services. So that sheet's going to be available, and you get a worksheet, and we're going to ask you to fill in the blanks and spend $12 million. How fun is that? I'll bet it's the only time this week that anybody asks you to spend $12 million. But you're going to fill it out, and then you're going to have to talk to the other people in your group. It's a democratic process. Just like it is at the commission, you've got to convince people, majority rules, and your group is going to come up with recommendations in terms of how you'd like to see that money invested. And then at the end, we'll come back and each group will present what their group came up with. All of those results will be posted online, and our website is wicokck.org. You can go to the mayor's picture. You can click on my face, gently please. You can click on my face and it will pop up the listening tour, and you can see all the feedback from all the listening tours that we've already had, plus this one. So all that information is going to be readily available. So you get to fill it out and come back as a group and we'll hear the feedback. Finally, there will be a survey in terms of an evaluation for how you thought the process went. That survey has been very helpful, the first 4, because I think they've improved as they're going. Our last one's going to be the best ever because we'll have had all the feedback of the first 7. But we would like your feedback in terms of how you think it went. So that's the end of my remarks. I'm going to ask you to, there's water and coffee in the back, but if you would move to your group, and if you're at 8 or 2 or 1, please take some chairs with you because we needed the chairs for more people to sit down. Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with the groups that are ready so we can get you out as close to on time as possible. No score in the Royals game, so you haven't missed anything yet. Everybody can relax. All right, we're going to get started. I do want to recognize 2 other elected officials who are here. Ms. Marianne Flunder, representative of the Community College Board, is here. And Judge Griffin was here. I don't know if Judge Griffin is still here. And Ashley Biondi with the Piper School District is here. So thank you for being here. Let's give them a hand as well. All right. Group 7 is ready.
Okay, we're in group 7, and I have to say this was the best group, so 7, raise your hand. All right, all right, all right. Okay, we decided that $4.5 billion would go for property tax relief, 1.3 would go for demolitions, 1.9 would go for the streets and for resurfacing and sidewalks, 1.2 would go for aging, 1.6 for park improvements, 1.6 for police services, 1.2 for fire services, and a 0.9 for reserves. We don't want to spend everything that we have. And I think the key thoughts from this group were that we wanted to spend the money wisely, and that was why the reserves was important, and also to spend the money in such a way that we would draw others back into our community. Thank you, and I enjoyed working with Group 7.
All right, Group 3. And again, all these results will be available online, so you'll be able to see all of the results from each group.
Thanks, Mayor. So Group 3. So property tax did not make our short list. Demo, $1.2 million. Codes, $300,000. Streets, $2 million. Mowing, $300,000. Aging, $2 million. Parks, $2 million. Youth programs, which popped up in our other category, gets $2 million. And small business, which also popped up in our other category, support for small business and growing our tax base, got $1.7 million. Thanks, team.
All right, Group 3. Group 3, thank you. I'm looking for another group. Group 10 ready?
All right, Group 10. Now, they were feisty. That's all I'll say. They were very concerned about certain areas, and they stuck with it. They filled out their surveys, and you could look at them and just tell that these people were very adamant and passionate about living in Wyandotte County and the areas that they live in and what they want to see changed. At the end, as you can see from our board over there was a lot of haggling. We came together as a committee and came up with a good solid plan that spreads the money across many areas of our city. The largest is property tax relief, $3.9 million. There were some questions about what will happen with other taxing entities in our city, the schools, the junior college and things like that. Will they increase and offset any savings that we would see? Demolitions was $800,000. Code enforcement was a small amount of $100,000. Street resurfacing came up at $1.6 million. They actually increased that. Mowing vacant lots, a couple $100,000. A little bit more for snow removal, $300,000. Aging services, $1.38 million. There was a lot of concern about the amount of services that we have for our aging. $150,000 for property tax at the courthouses. $620,000 for park improvements. $1.1 million for the police and $870,000 for the fire. And then an additional $890,000 in the other. That was mostly for reserves, but there was also concern about having more sidewalks in our city. I want to thank Group 10 again. They were a pleasure to work with.
All right, Group 2, and is Group 1 ready also? What group are you? 5. So Group 2 and then 5 will be on deck.
Group 2 was the pride of Wyandotte County. I just want to say that right now. Group 2, raise your hands. All right, so you had the heart and soul. Here's how they would spend their money. By the way, we laughed a lot on this, and I don't think as commissioners they probably do that very often, but we did.
Oh, we're a fun group.
Yeah, property tax relief, $2.5 million. Demolition, $800,000. Code enforcement, $250,000. Street resurfacing, $1 million. Mowing vacant lots at $150,000, snow removal at $600,000, aging at $1 million, $300,000 for personal property, so that would be an increase of about 6 people. Park improvements at $1 million, police improvement at $2 million, fire at $1.5 million, which left us about $900,000 left over for all of the others. So we have savings. Youth programs was probably the number one for our group, was really kind of thinking about how do we engage the youth more. Raises for the UG employees, I'm pretty sure anybody that is one would appreciate that. Mental health, Wi-Fi, vacant lot home agent. And really what that's about is when properties go vacant, who actually follows up to see who owns that? Can we get them before it goes completely dormant? And the last one is a live stream of Livable Neighborhoods meetings, so if you can't make it out in bad weather, you can see it and watch it. Sorry. Thank you.
Group, I said 5, right? Okay, group 5, and then who's next? 1, group 5, and then group 1.
All right. Group 5 was a great group. Thank you guys, especially there at the end. They were doing a great job, giving and taking. It was democracy in action, I thought. The most interesting, I think, thing, or the one that's hidden the most, is that I thought it was surprising. Only 5 of 13 people in Group 5 said that we should spend any money reducing property taxes, but those 5 allotted quite a bit. So that had $1 million on it. Demolitions had $500,000 allotted to it. Code enforcement had $300,000 allotted to it. Street resurfacing had $900,000 allotted to it. Mowing vacant lots had $300,000 allotted to it. Snow removal had $400,000 allotted to it. Aging services got quite a bit, $1.75 million allotted to it. The group thought that was important. Auto registration had $150,000 allotted to it. Park improvements was another big winner in our group, $1.5 million for park improvements. Police services had $525,000 allotted to it, and fire services had $700,000 allotted to it. And we had, mostly my fault, we were a thrifty group, and when we added all those up, we realized we had only spent $8 million. So we had $4 million left, and so we had quite a few others. Healthcare, which included Alzheimer's prevention, new recreation centers and pools in the inner city, healthcare again, sidewalks and trails, sewers here in the Piper District, increase of parking at the Annex was one, county salaries made it onto the list 2 times, extended transit hours was one of them, healthcare again, and then we had a very thrifty individual I wanted to give a shout out who thought that we shouldn't spend any of it, we should save all of it for a rainy day. So, thank you, Group 5.
Okay, Group 1 and then Group 4. Group 1 and then 4.
All right, Group 1 allocated, I'm going to skip property tax relief and come back to that. Group 1 allocated $700,000 for demolitions, 0 funds for code enforcement, $2 million for street resurfacing, $300,000 for mowing vacant lots, $400,000 for snow removal, $2 million for aging services, no funds for the auto registration, $2 million for parks improvements, and $1 million each for police and fire. We had a split 50-50 down the group with, we had $2.5 million left, and half of them wanted to allocate that back into the property tax relief, and half wanted to allocate that to other things, focusing on education and also on improving arts and tourism.
All right, group number 4, and then we'll go with group number 6. 4 and 6.
All right, reporting out for Group 4. For property tax relief, we had $5 million. For demolitions, $153,000. For code enforcement, $90,000. For street resurfacing, $1.7 million. For mowing vacant lots, $50,000. For snow removal, plowing and treatment, $125,000.
For aging services, $300,000. For personal property registration at courthouse or annex, and we hope this eliminates that extra fee, $150,000. Park improvements, $671,000. Police services, $300,000. Fire services, $285,000. Sidewalks, especially around the areas of the schools, $1.175 million. Youth Employment Program, $2 million.
All right, group 6, and then groups 8 and 9 will be last.
Hi, I'll be reporting for Group 6. They did a great job tonight. Okay, so for property tax relief, we had kind of the idea of go big or go home, but we ended up going with $1 million for that. Demo, 1.5. Code enforcement, just 500,000. Street resurfacing, we decided to combine curbs, sidewalks, and sewer with that, and that was $3 million. That was our largest. For mowing vacant lots, it was $300,000, $200,000 for snow removal, $1 million for aging, nothing for the personal property registration. Park improvements was $1 million, police services $1 million, fire services $1 million. And then we had a couple for other. We had UG raises and building development. That was $1 million. And then for economic renovation, specifically grocery stores, I heard a lot of shots for Hy-Vee, $700,000 for that. And these were some of our themes here. The biggest one really is the economic development that will broaden the tax base. They liked how the money was shared, and they liked the items that were already listed on here. So they did a great job. Thanks.
All right, group 8 and then 9 will be our last one.
Good evening. I was with group 8, and we had a great group with lots of great discussion. I'll just run down kind of what we came up with here. First, talking about demolition and commercial properties. Opted not to put any money into demolition, thinking about repurposing those properties instead of tearing them all the way down. Let's do some minor fixes so those can be used. Also the same for code enforcement. And the idea behind those two categories is to have more community pride. Building pride in our community will reduce the need for folks to come out and demo properties, or reduce the need for folks to go out and enforce the codes, because people will be upkeeping their property. $1 million into street resurfacing, focusing out at the Legends. That since the area has been so successful, there's been more traffic there. Those roads are starting to crumble, and people think they need resurfacing. $500,000 for mowing vacant lots. Looking at the aging services and combining a health component on that as well, looking at $2 million with the idea of helping folks that need to get to the doctor get there, making paths for folks to get to the doctor and be seen. $200,000 out of the personal property registration at the courthouse or the annex. $2 million for park improvements, and again, probably a health component for that as well. With our parks looking nicer, more folks will go out and use them. $1 million to both police and fire, focusing on staff and equipment. Our others category got kind of long and detailed, but the three we came to terms on are $1.5 million for the school districts, and that money is to be asterisked so that the state can't get its hands on it, or reduce any additional funding because we're withholding this money for our schools. Specifically set off for an entrepreneurial category, so our kids, when they graduate school, instead of moving away, they can have an own opportunity here and invest and incentives to stay here and start their own company, and also $1 million back into our fund balance. But then others, just to mention, parking garage at the annex, employee increase, mental health, especially for children, water line extensions, Hare and Piper, that happened when it was annexed by the city 20 years ago. Pulford Road rebuilt, also reinstitute Operation Brightside, and I think that's what we talked. Also a light rail connector system from downtown Kansas City, Kansas, out to the Legends. Thank you.
All right, group number 9.
Thank you, Mayor. Group 9, we went about our group discussion a little bit differently. So we had 9 people in our group, and what we agreed to do was take everyone's comments about how much they wanted to spend in a particular area, total that number, and divide it by 9 to get an average. So what I'm giving you now is the average of the 9 people in Group 9 by category. So for property relief, the average was $1.2 million and some change. For demolition of residential or commercial properties, a little over $544,000. Code enforcement, roughly $222,000. Street resurfacing, which included widening roads and curb cuts and some other things, basically about $1.23 million, $1,233,000 to be exact. Mowing vacant lots, the average was $163,888. Snow removal, plowing, and treatment, the average was in the group was roughly about $473,000. Aging services, $572,000. Personal property, auto registration at the courthouse or annex, approximately $84,000, and a note to follow up on our customer services training, which we got a lot of feedback about that. The average for park improvements was $1 million. The average for police services was approximately $1.5 million. Fire services was $1,172,000 and some change. And then under the other category, again, we took the averages. We had a number of areas on the other, including stormwater issues, $111,000. Non-motorized trails and sidewalks, the average among the 9 was $55,000. Under the other category again, staff salaries for UG employees, the average was $883,000. Fund reserves, the average was $2.4 million. Public transportation, the average there was $55,000. Public facilities, in doing improvement in our public buildings and structures, roughly $289,000. And lastly, under the other category, some money devoted to schools. There wasn't any qualifiers on what that money should be used for, but the group average was approximately $145,000. Thank you very much, group number 9.
All right, so again, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Do turn in your evaluation. One group, I think, was not asked to turn in your surveys, but we want those as well so we can get all that data online. So if you did not, you can turn that in on your way out. Also, if you have note cards, we did invite the different groups, and if you did not get this invitation in your group, if you have a specific issue about a situation in your neighborhood that you want addressed, we did want to get that information, but we have found that by people putting on a note card with your contact information, my team can follow up with you more efficiently than talking about it as a whole group. But we want to make sure if you have a specific concern in your neighborhood that you get that to us so we can get it addressed. So please turn in your note cards as well. And if you didn't get a note card, you'd like one, you can get one in the back. So I really want to thank everyone for coming out. This process has been fascinating to me, and I hope it was interesting to you as well, to give you a little taste of what budget time looks like at the Unified Government, with all the different competing needs that we have, and this great opportunity. We really want to leverage this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the maximum benefit for our whole community. So really appreciate your taking the time from your evening to come out to spend it in this way. So with that, we will send you out, and thank you again. Give yourselves a hand for doing a great job.